Good evening, good afternoon, don't care where you are. Welcome to a Monday edition of Bet the Monday following Selection Sunday. Tyler Fulghum and Dalen Cuff in Vegas.
Good to be here.
ESPN put him up in the penthouse somewhere here on the Strip, so he'll be living the good life with us all week here in Vegas.
Let's not say that. We don't need the finance guys looking into my books or anything. We don't need that. It's no good.
It will be fun having you here, not just on Bet, but in Vegas throughout the week as we get ready for the dance, the NCAA tournament. We are going to help you try and figure out ways to fill out your bracket, win some money in your office pool, your family pool, don't matter. It's obviously one of the most enjoyable times of the sports calendar, March Madness, and trying to win a little bit of money in that regard. All right, Dal, I know it's been a minute since you've been here for a Bet episode, but we'll dust ourselves off, and I'll remind you that we like to start on Monday with a little game of reaction or no action.
That's right.
Very simple here. Okay, I'm going to read you a statement. If you agree with it, reaction will be your response. If you disagree with it, no action will be your response. You got it?
Yes, sir.
All right, this guy's ready. He's an Ivy League grad. I think he can do this. All right, reaction or no action. A number one seed, Dalen, will not win the NCAA tournament.
Reaction.
Okay.
It's real. We've been saying it all year. There's more parity in college basketball than ever. The democratization of talent with the NIL and transfer portal. That's real. Also, the top level has not really separated from each other. So the ones and twos, there's a clear group of ones, but they're not dominant ones. And you got the twos in the mix as well. There'll be some threes there too. UConn a 4 seed. So we'll get to why Alabama is the best team and on paper, and I think may end up being that. But it would not surprise me at all if Texas or Marquette or UConn or Gonzaga, or you could run through a few others of the lower seeds, win and get to the championship and end up cutting down the nets in Houston.
All right, I'm going to say no action here, and I agree with you about the parity in college basketball this season, but I'm going to borrow from our buddy Joe Fortenbaugh, who kind of helped turn around a bad streak he was on in Best Bets by fading himself.
Oh, Costanza. That's like,
the Costanza, when Seinfeld Costanza. And I have heard so much over the last couple of weeks leading up to filling out brackets here this week about the parity and about how a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 seed could win this year, that now it's gotten to that point of, inflection where I want to go back the other way. I think people are starting to buy into the fact that, man, this is the year that a 1 seed gets bounced in the first round or the second round, that we see, a bunch of 3 or 4 seeds in the Final Four. And I understand that, but now I'm hearing that start to quell so much and start to crescendo so much that I want to zig while everyone else is zagging. So I'm going to go back to all ones in the Final Four.
You're going all?
I'm not going to do that, but I am going to say, a 1 seed, a team that we expect to win is going to win it all.
I will say Vegas, though, does back this theory because Houston at plus 600 is the longest odds for the favorite to win, and I believe since 1994. I think North Carolina was that. So there's that number in there as well. Also, all 1 seeds, folks, that's not a good idea.
No,
I know you were kidding.
I know.
All 1 seeds only happened one time since they expanded. I believe it was 2008. So that was, don't bank on that, but you should have at least 1 in there, maybe 2 by the numbers of the last 5 years and last 10 years. It's 60% are made up of 1s or 2s.
Stanzine, zigging, zagging. 1 seeds are starting to get kind of talked down a little bit.
It's the salmon against the stream.
Trying to get talked down a little bit. I'm going to bring them back up. Right, reaction or no action. An 8 seed or lower reaches the Sweet 16. That means an 8 through 16. So a long shot, a Cinderella is what we're talking about here, reaches the round of 16. Reaction or no action?
I couldn't react harder. There couldn't be more reaction. But yes, and again, we'll give you some more numbers. A double-digit seed has been in every tournament minus 2007 for the last 30 years. So it's not surprising. Now, the numbers you should be looking at are the 10 and 11 seeds because those aren't Cinderellas. A lot of times those are, and this year it's NC State or Northwestern or Boise State. It's teams on Boise State, people may think that, but Mountain West is a multi-bid league. It's high major quality league teams that have been from quality leagues have not been consistent throughout the course of the year. That's why they're 10 or 11 seeds. Doesn't mean they're incapable and they're used to seeing that's like-minded competition they're going to see. It's when you get to the 12s, the 13s, the 14s, the 15s of St. Peter's. That is a massive Cinderella. I'm going to Elite 8. That's stuff you don't see. So without a doubt, you should have at least 1 double-digit seed in your Sweet 16. The question is picking the right one. And I will say, look at the early 12-5 games, the 13-4s. Look at those numbers in terms of what Vegas thinks the lines are. The Furman, Virginia, the Kent State, Indiana line, much closer than UConn and Iona or Tennessee and Louisiana, and that's for a reason.
I am reacting just as hard with you. I mean, you covered it all right there. I mean, there's always a 12. There's always, what I've noticed, a lot of those 11 seeds that come in through the play-in, keep that momentum going and reach the Sweet 16. So look at 11, 12s, and 13s. That's the sweet spot for me. I think there's a couple of 10 seeds I like as well. So I am reacting just as hard with you that we are going to see, no doubt about it, an 8 seed or lower, an 8 through 16 seed, make it to the round of 16. That always freaking happens. All right, let me pull my rundown back up here, and we'll go to our final reaction or no action here. The SEC wins both the men's and women's tournament. You got Alabama as a 1 seed. South Carolina on the women's side is the overall number 1 seed. Reaction or no action?
Real quick, you're a hell of a host. I think he unlocked his computer and did that really smooth. Well talking.
Behind
well
the
done.
curtain
I'm very impressed with you, sir. How much is the South Carolina favorite? They're minus 200 to win.
Wow.
200 to win the whole thing. So I do think they're going to take care of stuff. They've been so dominant, and they're too deep at every position. And here's why my reaction in the beginning, the first one makes no sense. Because I'm not zagging. Alabama's just the best team.
Yeah.
They're going to win it, I think. Like, that's who I got in my bracket. I think the bigger question with them is since the Brandon Miller, his implication in a horrific situation in February, they did not handle that well, and understandably so. The next 4 games, they were bad. First 3 halves of all 4 of those games, they trailed at halftime, looked poor. They lost one of them in the last game to A&M. The SEC tournament was different. They were in gear, they looked hungry, and they were together. That said, when you start the tournament in the round of 64 and 32, it's still the same sports media covering you. Cool, can handle that. Get to the round of 16, Elite 8, you now have ABC News, CBS, NBC, asking all these questions, and it have nothing to do with basketball.
Right.
You get to the Final Four, sir, where you have a top 5 pick, maybe top 3 pick, that was on the scene of a murder, brought a murder weapon to a crime like that. That like it was a story on the BBC, Globo in Brazil, Canal Plus in France. All they were was answering this question, and that's a lot to handle. So my question is not them on the floor as much as the totality of it. So I think Alabama finds a way through. They cut them down. I love their path. That's part of the reason for that. But that's a lot to handle.
Didn't consider that with Alabama because I had noticed how poorly they played immediately in the aftermath of the Brandon Miller situation. Then, as a Missouri fan, watched them run through the SEC, and Brandon Miller just looks like, as dominant a college player as we've seen in the last 5 or 10 years. I'm going to say no action, okay? I think South Carolina on the women's side takes care of business. But even though I said no action about those 1 seeds earlier, I don't want to see Kansas do it. Houston, the Sasser injury is a big issue. Purdue has played with its food all season long. They can beat anyone, and still no confidence whatsoever that they're going to win 6 games in a row. But I do think we see a team outside of the SEC. I don't think Alabama wins this tournament on the men's side. I think it's going to be a team from the Big 12, which I think has been the best basketball or the best conference in college basketball all season long. Hopefully it's not Kansas, but you have Texas, you have Baylor.
Okay, you're saying hopefully it's not. You're not thinking they can't do it.
Right,
you just don't want to see it.
Kansas can do it, of course. They are 1 seed. I just don't want to see that as a Missouri Tiger. But I think the best basketball was played in the Big 12. That's why on the men's side, I think a Big 12 team cuts down the nets. But South Carolina on the women's side, absolute wagon. Let's graduate to the NBA real quick.
Oh boy, here we go.
And summon the help of our friends Joe Fortenbaugh and Doug Kazarian, because we do have 7 games on the NBA slate tonight. And in case you need a little itch before March Madness starts, you can jump right in. Joe's best bet, Tyus Jones going over 15.5 points for Memphis. Of course, Ja Morant's still out, and Jones is maybe the best backup point guard in the NBA, slides right in and can give you a 20 and 10 on any given night. So Joe riding that trend with Jones. Doug's best bet, Mavs in that same game, plus the 3.5 against the Grizzlies. Now, Luka Doncic is out, and Kyrie Irving is ruled out again. So the Mavs will be going to the likes of Jaden Hardy, Josh Green. Tim Hardaway Jr. is going to probably occupy a lot of the usage there. But Doug likes the spot for Dallas, minus their biggest stars catching some points against the Grizzlies. I'm going to throw one at you here.
Go ahead.
It's Pacers-Pistons over 226.5, 227 points. These 2 teams played in the same gym on Saturday. 121, 115. Went well over this total here. There are 11 rotation players combined for both teams out. So these teams are stripped.
Just two-way guys everywhere right now?
Exactly. So there's 7, 8 guys that each coach can use in the rotation. They played to a total of 236 2 days ago. And it's guys who aren't trying to impress NBA scouts and GMs with their defense, I imagine. They want to get buckets. They want to put good stat lines together. So I think defense is going to be minimal. I think the pace will be up with the Pacers. And with only 2 guys on the bench you can sub out, Yeah, they're going to save their legs on defense, both sides, to try and score some points. So I'm going over 226.5 in that game. Does that handicap make sense based on 11 rotation players combined out for the two teams?
I'm like blown away by that. 11 dudes? Like,
11
do they need me to suit up? Like, they need some shoes? I'll go chuck some threes.
Baby.
Let's go. I'll take a 10
Get
day.
Dalen on that 10-day contract. Can you fly to Detroit in time for tip-off?
I'd rather
Probably
be
not.
here. No, I don't want to go to. I just came from Detroit, actually. That's where I flew in from, and it looked like hell out there, by the way. Hell.
That game tips in about 20 minutes, so make sure you get that play in before it starts. All right, we'll hop off the hardwood for a bit and move to the National Football League because down the NFL is a 365-a-day league year, or 365-day-a-year league. There we go.
Boom, nailed it.
Finally, third time's a charm. All right, free agency starting the time where teams can talk to other players and try and work out deals. Here's some notable free agents remaining. There's a lot of names have already been signed today. Odell Beckham Jr. at the top of that list. Why don't we summon, once again, the help of a good friend to talk about the National Football League, one of our favorites, joining us right now. You know, no Monday edition of Bet would be complete without the Monday Night Messiah, Mike Tannenbaum, especially since we're talking about the NFL. We need Mikey T to help us out with this free agency class. But, Mike, before we get to a name that's an actual free agent, the Aaron Rodgers watch continues. We know the Jets flew to meet him. They talked to him. We're seeing rumors percolate all day on social media. But still, nothing has been made official about Rodgers leaving the Packers or much less going to the New York Jets. So take me through that Jets front office, ownership group, GM. What are they thinking as they try and finalize a deal that would have such a significant impact on their season?
Yeah, great to be with you, Tyler. Going out and seeing him, that is job number one, letting him know how important he is, how good the roster is without him, and what presumptively they could do with him. With that said, though, if I'm Joe Douglas, as much as I want Aaron Rodgers until every T is crossed and I is dotted, I'm going to at least inquire about Matt Stafford, Ryan Tannehill. On Wednesday, I could talk to Lamar Jackson. So all those other alternative steps have to be looked into and monitored because until he's there, you just never know.
And wonder what the contingency plans may be if Rodgers does some Rodgers crazy stuff and just ends up staying in Green Bay. All right, Rodgers under contract. Jimmy Garoppolo was an actual free agent, and earlier today, Mike T agreed to a 3-year deal with the Las Vegas Raiders right here in Sin City. So now you look around the AFC West at the quarterbacks. You got Mahomes, pretty good. Justin Herbert, pretty good. Russell Wilson, once upon a time was pretty good. Who knows? And Jimmy G. Where would you rank the Raiders QB amongst that quartet?
Third, I would go Mahomes, Herbert, and then Jimmy G. I'm a big fan of his 40-17 as a starter. You know, Tyler, he averages 8.3 yards per attempt, which is the best in the NFL over the last 3 years. So I'm a big Jimmy G fan. When he wins, their teams play well, and I expect him to make a marked improvement for the Raiders.
He's got some weapons there. Devontae Adams, Darren Waller, Josh Jacobs back. So a good environment for Jimmy G to step into. Now let's move to the wide receiver group, Mike T, because it's kind of light. One name that does stand out is Odell Beckham Jr. We know he sat out all of last year after that knee injury, helping the Rams win the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Reportedly, there's about a dozen teams interested in OBJ. That's a third of the league. What are your top 3 potential landing spots for the dynamic wide receiver?
You know, for me, it's the Cowboys. They haven't replaced Amari Cooper. He would go there with CeeDee Lamb and be 1 and 1A. That's always made sense to me. Going back to the Giants, obviously they could use another receiver or two. Reunited to go home, I think, would be, you know, a great narrative for the resurgent Giants. And then I think Buffalo. Buffalo's a team that feels like they're one player away. Gabe Davis, to me, he's somewhat inconsistent, but my gosh, if you had Odell Beckham paired with Stephon Diggs and Josh Allen, we'd see a lot of deep balls. So to me, those would be the top 3 teams, Tyler.
The Monday Night Messiah, Mike Tannenbaum, kind enough to join us here for this off-season Monday edition of Bet. We always love chatting with you, Mikey T, and we can't wait to do it again soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Mike T, the man. Dalen Cuff also trying to send out some bets, I imagine.
I look locked in right
listening
there.
to Mike T before we tip off some NBA games. So appreciate Mike for dropping by. NFL, stealing the shine for just a bit. Let's get back to why we have you here. March Madness, NCAA tournament. We have play-in games tomorrow and Wednesday before the real madness starts Thursday and Friday. So let's run through those games Tuesday and Wednesday and see if we can offer up some winners for our viewers. We have, I believe, this is a 16-16 game. Yep. Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, Southeast Missouri State. A&M Corpus Christi a 4-point favorite. High total of 156. It's 4-point favorite.
4 now? That was 2.
4.
Okay,
We got
all
4
right.
up there. 156 is the total.
Now, yeah.
So a rather high total, expecting it to be a somewhat entertaining game. How are you looking at handicapping this one?
I'm nervous with the over. That's where you would lean first because SEMO plays a top 10 tempo in the country. Islanders aren't slow either. They're top 70 in the country. So both teams are comfortable getting up and down. It's Dayton. It's that pressure. We've seen that first game look a little ugly. So I'm not going to lean into the over-under. I will play the side. I think as fast as SEMO plays, they can't shoot it. They really struggle to shoot the ball. They have to score on a 2-point side of things. Corpus Christi is a good defensive team. They defend the two very well. They manufacture offense. First in offensive rebound in their conference, first in defensive rebound. They get to the free throw line, and they shoot the ball at a 40% clip from 3 in league play, 39 normally. That is very high. So they make shots. The other team doesn't. Both play at pace. Give me the Islanders.
I am going to attack that total, and I am going to go over. Now, in interest of full disclosure, last night, this was 153.5. So it's become a popular overplay, and we are certainly not getting the best numbers. So shop around and see if you can find something lower. But I think people are leaning into SEMO's pace and the ability that A&M Corpus Christi can shoot the rock a little bit. So if you have a team that's going to push it, and let's say SEMO does have one of its rare good shooting days, then we could see that shootout that we're hoping for, a game where both teams are above 75 points into the 80 range. So I don't love that it's moved now, and I have to give the official pick 2.5 points higher than what I wanted to play it at. But I will lean into that over like it seems the rest of America and the world is doing for that particular game. All right, this is an 11 seed play-in game that we're going to see on Tuesday. It's SEC versus ACC. Mississippi State and Pittsburgh here. Mississippi State a 1.5-point favorite, and we got a pretty minuscule total of 133. What's your lean here?
Mississippi State can really guard you, and here's the waiting in the wings is Iowa State. I want Pitt to win this game because that game, Mississippi State, Iowa State, would set basketball back 15 years. It would be heinous, and I don't want to watch it. Like both those teams guard the heck out of you. Both of them really struggle to score. I think as a general principle in the tournament this year, I'm looking at teams. To win it all, you need teams in the top 22 for Ken Pomeroy's rankings the last 5 years, offensive and defensive adjusted efficiency for both sides of the ball. So balance is what wins you everything. I want teams that can score the ball. As a more general principle, Pitt has bucket getters. They got a bunch of transfers that are old, between 22 and 24 years old. They're grizzled. They are tough. They shoot the heck out of it, led by Jamarius Burton, a first-team All-League player. The ACC has been much poo-pooed, but I think they score enough, and Mississippi State can't score with them, and they win this game.
And that is why, my friend, we are at loggerheads here. I'm going to take Mississippi State laying the 1.5.
I was in the money line, by the way, obviously.
Well, I see the money line. I don't mind trying to get the value there. Mississippi State minus 1.5. My general thesis for college basketball this season is that the further south you get, or the closer to the equator, the better the basketball has become. Big 12 teams, especially in Texas, SEC teams, a few of the ACC teams like Miami, Houston, of course, right down near the southern tip of Texas. So the further south you get, the better the basketball has been. So I will yield SEC in this particular matchup. Take Mississippi State with the way they can guard, and they kind of limit the efficiency of Pittsburgh. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think it's a rock fight. I think Mississippi State is able to dictate tempo and dictate the scoreboard a little more with their style and their ability to guard. So I'm going Mississippi State and the SEC.
I'm over here. I just wish I could have seen you looking at longitude and latitudes and like trying to break stuff down. I'm trying to think of my top of the head. Like, which one was close? And I wonder if you fudged one. I've got to figure that out.
I had to remind myself, is longitude the horizontal one or the vertical one? Because I needed the horizontal one. Latitude is the horizontal one. Longitude is the vertical
Magellan
one.
over here.
And then I needed to remember how to read the number. Is the higher number for further south? But no, it's the lower the number.
You realize we learned this in school?
Yeah,
but no, my point
20
is.
years ago.
My point is, how useless is that? Do we need any of that?
I learned 20 years later, completely applicable to filling out my NCAA bracket. Let's continue. Arizona State, Nevada is our next one. This will be an 11 play-in game. Arizona State favored by a couple, total of 133.5. How do you feel, Dalen?
We've seen this in years past where a team that doesn't, you think they're going to be left out, they kind of get that second chance and they look good. To your point, they win a playing game, maybe they can go on a run. VCU is one of the most famous ones from this ever in 2011, getting to the Final Four. That said, Nevada's just not playing very well. And Arizona State has enough bucket getters, but they also do really guard you. But they have some creative shot makers on their team. Nevada lost the last 3 of the regular season. Great for Steve Alford's crew. He's gotten 5 different teams to the tournament. Only Tubby Smith, Lon Kruger, and Rick Pitino have done that. So he's in some rarefied air there. That said, I don't think his trip there is that long. I don't love this game. It's my least favorite of the 4 playing games, but I would lay the 2 with Arizona State.
Arizona State, a little further south than Nevada.
we
Ipso
go.
facto ergo, I am with you, laying the 2 with the Arizona State Sun Devils. Finally, on Wednesday night, Texas Southern, Fairleigh Dickinson, the final 16-16. Texas Southern favored by 2, a total of 145.5.
Last time I was out here in this December, we shared a lovely meal of
Yes,
food
we did.
together, and we all hung out. It was
Fantastic.
great. It was great. Why I was out here was the HBCU Chris Paul event
Right.
that was down the street. And yes, we saw Texas Southern twice. They were dealing with some health issues then. They had some issues throughout the course of their season. That said, this team has been in this position too. The last 2 years, they've been the representative from the SWAC. Johnny Jones, the coach, has been here many different times, different teams. They have a couple high major players that have gone through some health issues, but still are capable. And I think the experience, the quality of those players, and I think their league is slightly better than the NEC. I'm going to lay the points against FDU and the Knights, and they were 10-6 in a kind of very average NEC, and they got in here kind of on a default because Merrimack couldn't qualify.
Right,
Merrimack won the conference,
Right.
then beat them in the final. So they're not deserving. Dance away, boys. I just like Texas Southern.
How do you feel about that total? I'm going to go under 145.5, and I don't have a great grasp of knowledge about much as far as Fairleigh Dickinson and Texas Southern are concerned, so I'll yield to you. Am I on the right side, you think, of the total going under 145?
The reason I'd rather play the side here because I think Texas Southern's the better
Okay.
team. But if I play the total, I play the under. And it's kind of that same rationale about coming into a game. Bear in mind, though, Texas Southern does have a number of players that have done this before,
Sure.
and I think that matters. But there is a lot of nerves in that game, man. That building, the UD Arena, it's got great
That's
energy,
what-
but it's not always full at that 6 o'clock, 6:09 tip, whatever it is. So the game tends to take a little to grow into it.
More so than the other 16-16 matchup that we talked about with that high total I went over, I thought this was the game that might kind of manifest those nerves that turn up on the scoreboard, where locked in defensively, scoring's a little tough, shot making kind of, takes a while to get going for either team. So I'm glad that you at least validated my lean to the under there. Makes me feel good about that.
Here we go.
145 now. All right, let's get to Thursday now.
Okay, here we go.
That's the appetizer. Thursday, when things really start, and we will be on. Daily Wager will be early to help get you ready. Thursday morning, Friday as well. If I asked you to identify a team that's on upset alert Thursday, could help you with your bracket out there and finding a Cinderella, what team would you name?
Is this Furman? Do I have Furman here? I forget. We're on Thursday, Friday. Furman, boom. Okay, yeah. Virginia. Just confirming, because I do like Furman's team, and this is a team that should have been in it last year. John David Baptiste hit a 35-footer, broke these guys' hearts. The same dudes, Slauson, Bothwell, they come all back, and they get back to the championship game. They're down early in that game. They came back to win it. I think they can shoot it. They're a very good shooting team. They're a veteran team. They've got good guard play. They can take you off the bounce. This is not the Virginia defense we thought of historically. People keep saying that. It's not. They're top 30 in defensive efficiency. They're usually top 5. They lose Ben Vanderplas, a stretch 4 that really, stretch 5 is how they played him, made their offense better. And it's a team that needs to make jump shots to score. They don't really have a guy who can give the ball and needs to break you down and go. They need to make jump shots to score. They don't play in transition that much, as we know. They're not elite defensively. I think Furman is ripe to knock down some shots and upset UVA.
If you are a fan of the Virginia Cavaliers, you will probably, maybe, feel better about the fact that I, too, agree the Virginia Cavaliers are on upset alert
that's
against
Brown.
Furman.
Well, we're
so
done.
the kiss of death for Furman at +5.5 and on the money line. +195 is the price you can get on the money line. I mean, this is a 13-4 matchup where you have a high major against a mid-major, and that high major is only laying 5.5. So that jumped out to me when I saw this matchup. I dug in a little more on Furman and discovered they're a really good program, a really good team. And when I watched UVA this year, there's a standard that has been set in recent years by this team, and it didn't pass the eye test. That's not the Virginia team that has all these players in the NBA that's going deep into the tournament. So that's one stood out to me. So if you're a Virginia Cavalier fan, your team's probably going to the Final Four now. Since we did not collaborate on that,
We did not.
and we both come up with a
This
Furman
next one
over
concerns
Virginia.
me then, too, but go ahead.
All right, now that's, trying to find a little bit of an upset. You got to stretch there a little bit. If you had to, on Thursday, the 16 games we'll see played, pick a lock, one that you have your most confidence in, a bet, a side, a total, doesn't matter what it is, but your Thursday take it to the bank bet would be what?
Is this Mizzou? I can't hear you, Weimer. Mizzou, sorry, she's
Am I-
mad at me.
Look
We'll
at
figure out
that.
the IFB later. We'll pick out the IFB later. Why I said it's not good, because I was like, I know it's your alma mater. Now, the computers have not liked them all year.
No,
The metrics have not liked them all
hates
year. Vegas has not liked them all year. They've paid me a number of different times, whether it was on the money line or they're getting, 8.5 at Arkansas sometime in December or January. Like, They were always getting points for the course of this year. The Tennessee game, just this past weekend, pregame and live, they just were not coming off the Vols. This is a team that can really score, and so can Utah State. So I know people are enamored with the over.
Yeah, up in the 150s.
It's up in the 150s. And again, I'm a little concerned that Utah State as a Mid-Mount West team, it's hard to get quality opponents to play. We know that. I get that scheduling part of it. They didn't have a brutal non-conference schedule. They haven't been tested that much. Mizzou was tested a lot in the conference season, not so much non-conference, but in a better SEC, and they can score on anybody. That's one thing they have been improved. They can score the ball as they did in Tennessee. I think they win this game. Give me the money line. That's one of the rare 7-10s. The 7 seed is the underdog, so I'm going to take that money line, and I think they win.
Yeah, the Mizzou from St. Louis went to Mizzou, obviously, and St. Louis is going to tie into my Thursday ticket to the bank as well. But Mizzou, not a good defensive team, but they obviously can turn you over.
Yep.
And they don't get stops in terms of stops, but they can create offense for themselves off of that defense. And as you're right, they shoot the three a lot and they can score. They'll play fast. They're, I think, a difficult team to prepare for in a tournament with their specific style. And I did not think they'd be good this year. They've exceeded expectation all year long, and I think, at least in the first round, they can exceed expectation yet again. I'm going to take it to the bank with Arkansas, laying a 2.5 against Illinois. Now, again, I grew up in St. Louis. I still listen to some St. Louis radio, so they talk about Illinois and Missouri a lot right there on the Mississippi River. Mizzou did something to Illinois when they played them in St. Louis for the bragging rights game. Beat them by about 30. After that, it was a boat race. Illinois just was not a good basketball team. For all the talent that they had there, for all the talent that Brad Underwood has had on that team, they have been wildly disappointing. And they were never, I think, in danger of missing the tournament, but they didn't play like a tournament team pretty much from January, February, into March now. I mean, they lost to Ohio State. I mean, Ohio State had that run in the tournament, but Ohio State was not a good team. And Illinois, ever since they had that loss in the bragging rights game to Missouri, is not a good team. And Arkansas, although they underachieved, they got like 3 first-rounders on their team. And Eric Musselman, someone who you can trust in March as well. So that's the SEC versus Big Ten team. Arkansas, south of Champaign, Illinois. So I'm going to ride with Arkansas there. A couple of teams that disappointed relative to talent all year long. All right, before we let you go, we're about to shut it down here. Essentially, I would like you to offer up some NCAA tournament betting advice, gambling advice, whether it's just games or your bracket. What would you offer to the people here, Dalen?
I think you have to be more than ever paying attention to the injury situation. Some of the key teams, Houston with Marcus Sasser, Kansas Kevin McCullough, North Shadow Mir from Miami, a team that I thought would be really have a chance to make a run to the Final Four or Elite Eight like they did last year. He hurt his ankle. Like there are a bunch of different injuries across the board. UCLA's dinged up already. We know Jalen Clark's out. Pay a lot of attention to that. The other part is don't lay these monster lines pre-tip, with especially the 1 seeds. Because if it starts slow and they're a little tight and the 1 seed hangs and the 2 seed hangs around, you're going to get a couple points back on a live line. So I like live action way more on those top seeds, particularly the 1 seed, sometimes even the 2s. Depending upon that matchup, especially if it's a 2 seed that plays a slower tempo, like UCLA against UNC Asheville, who's a veteran team that's won a championship that can shoot it, they're getting 18 points. I think they're going to stay within that number. But if you're on UCLA, do not play it before. Wait, you might come down.
Yeah, I like that advice. Something I've never heard, but as you explain it, 1s and 2s in that first round on the live line, especially if they start a little slow. You can get some tremendous value based on how those teams actually match up on the court. All right, my advice, I think when you're filling out your bracket, in the first and second round, you got to do the Costanza. There's got to be one game that makes no sense to you, that you can see no reason whatsoever that Furman beats Virginia. Okay, whatever.
I just gave you reasons for that.
But I'm just saying, there's got to be, in the first round and the second round, you have to make one selection in your bracket that is almost fading yourself. St. Peter's last year. Would you have ever figured St. Peter's would do what they've done?
I had Kentucky in the finals, so no.
Exactly. So I don't know if it's a 15-2. I don't know if it's a 14-3. It doesn't matter. But somewhere in your first round and somewhere in your second round, make a selection that that can't happen. Because guess what happens every single tournament?
You got me over here looking at it. I'm like, which one would I?
Which one?
Princeton, Arizona? Princeton, Arizona? We doing it? They can play fast.
It is going to happen, at least one in your first and second round. Those are the type of things that differentiate your bracket from the rest of your pool and maybe help you put a winner out there. All right, this guy's a winner. Dalen Cuff.
I'm over here. That's all I'm thinking about now. I'm like, what one would I really go nuts on here?
You got 15 seconds to figure it out before we
It
shut
ain't
this
Colgate,
bad boy
Texas.
down.
Colgate's a lot really good. Texas is really good.
All right, we're going to have a daily wager tournament bracket special that starts at 6:30 local, I think 9:30 Eastern. We'll see you there. Everyone, enjoy the dance.